To place walls that actually create a building, once again, is very easy in ArchiCAD. Make sure you've got the wall tool selected. Make sure you choose the correct wall type. In this instance, I'm going to use this 240 brick veneer wall. Now, as I move my cursor across the slab, you'll notice that the cursor shape is just a crosshair, but if I hold down the space bar, it turns into a magic wand with little sparklies around it. You can actually click here, but I tend to like or prefer to go to the edge of the slab where the magic wand changes into a polygon around the magic wand cursor, and then as I'm holding the spacebar down and I left mouse click, it puts a wall all the way around the slab. So it's really just traced the slab with walls. It's a good way to quickly start a building. Of course, you can split the walls and change them. If you wanted to change the wall type, you can just select the wall, click the axe tool, draw a line through by left mouse clicking once and drawing a line through it, and then the eye is asking you which way do you want to split the wall, and click on the right hand side. At the moment we can see that wall selected, so now I might just change that to an empty fill. So it's easy to change the wall types by selecting walls, or even chopping walls anywhere along the length of it, and once it's split, once again we can change to any type of composite or fill that we like. So it's a very flexible way of drawing your walls and modeling them. So I'm just going to undo that by going Control Z or Apple Z. Now when you're placing walls, if you choose the wall tool and choose the method, I might just use a continuous wall method here. We can use exactly the same methodology that we used when we were creating slabs. So if I left mouse click once, I drag out, once again the tracker's not on, so I click the tracker and I'll type in 6 meters, enter. I'm going to go down the page, wait to constrain to the smart guide and type in 4 meters. And if I double click or push enter again, it finishes that off. So I can go around the building and define it using this method. So I might just click on the wall tool, go Control A or Apple A and delete all the walls. I can also place walls simply by clicking and stepping out around the slab. I'm on the wrong side, so I'm just going to flip the reference side. So I'm just clicking around here. The smart cursor once again preempting the arc using the pet pellets. Go back to the straight method. And we can simply step around the building. I'm pushing the mouse wheel down to zoom there or to pan. Waiting for the little halfway marker to come up. So I click on that. That's in the way, so I'm going to close that. And there we have our buildings. Placing the walls manually. Now if I just go to the 3D window, we can see the effect of that. That's the result. I'm just going to close it off again. Editing walls. I'm going to go Control A and delete all the walls again. In fact, I don't want the slab anymore either. So I'm just going to draw a straight wall and holding the Shift key down to constrain it this time. I'm going to click the tracker again. Now we're going to edit the wall and move it and multiply it, do a couple of things. So first of all, I'm going to select the wall. So while I'm on the wall tool, I hold the Shift key down and left mouse click on the wall. Once the wall is selected, if I move up to the edit menu and go to the move drop down, here we have drag, rotate, mirror, elevate, drag a copy, rotate a copy, and all these options are available through the pet palette. Another thing you might notice is on the right hand side we have all the shortcuts, so there are keyboard shortcuts for each of these commands as well, but the quickest way to do it is using the pet palette. So if I get out of there, and if I click on the wall and I hold my left mouse button down on the wall, the pet palette comes out, and the first icon that is available is the move icon. Now we want to keep it on the move icon, and on the Windows we have to push Control, or on the Mac we push the Alt Option key, and as soon as we do that, a little plus sign comes up. This little plus sign means that we're dragging a copy of it. We can actually type in a distance there into the pet palette, into the tracker palette if we want to, or we can, but I think I'm just going to place one at random. So that plus sign, as soon as I click again, it will place the other copy. So if I push Control Z, I'll undo that. This time I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to push on the Windows I'm going to push Control Alt, and on the Mac I'm going to push the Alt Option and Apple key, and then two little crosses will come up. Once those two little crosses come up, we can drop multiple copies of that wall. Now I can just click up the page. I can also type in distances into the tracker palette if I want. We can see just typing in 6 meters, 7 meters. I'm just going to keep dragging copies up the wall, and I double click to end that particular function. I'll draw some walls on the angle as well for the sake of this exercise. Just going to place a couple of walls. Once I've got a couple of the walls drawn, by using the Apple and Control key, I can trim those back. So if I hold the Control key while a wall is not selected, little scissors come up. I'm just going to zoom into there. Actually, it's probably better if I do it to this wall going horizontally across the page. Now we can see as my cursor travels past the edge of the wall, it becomes a hairline Mercedes cursor, and on the other side it becomes a dark Mercedes cursor. Now the heavy Mercedes cursor on that side is the reference side, so I'm just going to turn the reference side on. We can see that there's a dark Mercedes cursor over the reference line, and over the other edge of the wall it becomes the hairline Mercedes cursor. So I'm just going to hide the reference lines there. Now if I hold the Control key down, and as it rolls over either edge of the wall, it becomes a black scissor icon, which means it can actually trim the wall. But you don't use the scissor part or the mouth part of the scissors to cut the wall, because they're not really scissors. So as the pointy end, or where the arrow part of the icon passes over the wall, if I click, then it will trim back the closest intersecting line or wall or object to where I just clicked to trim. So if I zoom out of here, and just by using my mouse wheel, I'm going to roll into or select this next wall, and by pushing down my Control key on the Windows or the Apple key on the Mac and clicking, it will trim back between those two walls. Now once again I'm just going to hold those buttons down, and while I'm holding that key down and click, it will just keep trimming between walls. Now if the wall is selected, now that's the only difference, I'm selecting it. Now I'm going to move my mouse over to a Mercedes cursor on a wall or some sort of object. If the Mercedes cursor is up and I left mouse click on it, then it will shoot the object that's selected to that wall. So I'm going to select that wall, hold the Control or Apple key down, clicking, and the wall gets shot over. And if I left mouse click, it shoots it out. So trimming walls is just unselected, hold the Control or Apple key down, and if it's selected, by holding the Control and Apple key down, clicking, it will extend it. So in a building type situation where we've perhaps already defined the slab, I just make sure I've got the right sort of wall first. and I'm just using the wheel to roll through those parameters. I'm going to hold the spacebar down and click, and around goes my 240 wall. Now I'm going to change the wall type to a 90mm plaster. Now I'm just going to, might just draw a wall through the middle of the building. I'm going to hold the shift key down, left mouse click on it, click on the control and alt key on Windows and the alt option and Apple key on the Macintosh, and I will drag numerous copies of this wall down this building. Now I'm in design phase now, theoretically, so I'm just going to push escape, zoom in a little bit, draw another wall coming down this way. Now if I zoom in, I can hold the appropriate key down, just left mouse click and trim those back. Might just trim this back as well. Left mouse clicking on that. Now I might just draw some dividing walls going down the middle of the building. I'm waiting for the halfway marker to come up on the slab. Then I'm going to draw another wall down here and create a little hallway. I'm going to select that wall, holding shift, clicking on it, and then holding the control key on Windows and Apple key on the Macintosh and shooting that wall out to that end wall there, and then waiting for the pet palette, holding the alt key on the Mac and the control key on the PC, dragging that to the left, and I'm just going to type in 1 meter there, have a little hallway there, type in 1000, enter, and then I'm going to deselect the wall. Then I'm just going to click trim in between those walls and create a little hallway. Then I might need a wall going up here, so which means this wall here wouldn't be brick veneer anymore, could be a solid brick wall. So I click on the axe tool. Now the guides come up there, hold the shift key, the eyes ask me which side do I want selected after I split it. So now I'm just going to change that to a single brick skin wall. I'm going to change the thickness of it to 110. That's a 110mm brick wall. Now if I wanted to take the properties of that wall and inject it into this wall, I can hold the alt key down on both platforms and left mouse click on it, and once that eyedropper is black, it means it's actually reading it and sucked up the properties of that wall as soon as we left mouse click and complete that function. So the eyedropper actually has two forms. Here we see it in a form while I'm holding the alt key down as empty, so it's not actually reading or it's not able to absorb any parameters just yet, but as it becomes a dark or black or full eyedropper icon, that's when it's able to read or absorb the properties of the wall. Now because the wall joins two other walls, sometimes it might be easy to pick up the properties from the center node, and there's always a node in the middle of a wall right on the halfway marker. So I'm actually going to use that spot to absorb the properties, and then once they're absorbed I can let go of the alt key, and now I'm going to move over to this other wall. Now if I hold the control key and the alt key on Windows, or the Apple and alt option key on Macintosh, this syringe icon comes up. Now I can just left mouse click on the wall and it will transfer all the properties of that first wall into this wall. So I'll just move around the house and I'll just do the same thing there quickly. And once you've mastered this technique, it's a very quick way to change all the walls. I can do it to this one as well. Just hold the keys down, left mouse click on it, and the wall changes to match the first wall that we sucked up the properties from. And I'm just going to do that through the project. Even internal walls, I can even quickly swap between walls and quickly pick up the property of one wall and move across to other walls within the building. And this works for all objects, all walls, and it's a very quick way of changing the properties throughout your project. So there's a couple of different ways of employing different techniques that we've gone through during these wall movies, and you'll find that you can use these same techniques for most of the elements throughout your ArchiCAD project. Now that we've gone through placing walls, editing walls and changing walls constructions, I think it'd be a good idea to create your own little house as an exercise and just use all those, practice those multiply functions, change wall functions, injecting properties, editing, transferring properties, and by actually creating your own house, it's a good way to practice all these techniques that we've just learnt.